How do you know if you're effectively raising your level of consciousness and evolving as a soul? Understanding your progress and tracking your inner growth in the right way can make all the difference when it comes to sustaining your growth for the long term. But most people don't know what to look for, and they often make the mistake of using the ego's measuring stick to quantify their spiritual growth. The ego mind measures outcomes in very different ways than your higher self does. So it's critical that you set yourself up correctly in order to prevent self-sabotage. In this teaching, I'm going to reveal to you the one shift that you need to begin looking for in your life that will show up directly in front of you. But if you're not trained to see it, you'll do what the average person does. Brush it off, ignore it, or miss it altogether and think that nothing is changing in your life. Now, before we look at how to measure the progression of your soul's evolution, it's important to understand what the purpose of raising your consciousness is in the first place. Your experience of the outer world is always a reflection of the current state of development of your inner world, your mental, emotional, and spiritual refinement. You are perceiving outwardly through the lens of what you hold within. The quality of what you hold within is then shown to you through the energetic patterns within your relationships with other people. It's shown through the patterns of your self-talk, as well as the familiar emotions that you are triggered into experiencing most often. The ways in which you continuously think about or judge the world around you is an indication of what you unconsciously judge within yourself. These patterns indicate the context through which you experience life personally. Now, context is subjective, but when life is viewed through an emotional or egoic lens, these subjective experiences aren't recognized in this way. They're perceived as objective. And when life is seen as objective, it's seen as separate from us and having no relationship to our inner world of thoughts and emotions. The central purpose and true benefit of raising your spiritual consciousness is to free yourself from victim consciousness so that you may transform your inner world and experience the reflection of that inner shift within your outer world. Harmony within creates harmony without. And as you find momentum in creating a harmonious inner being, you may first notice the refinement of your self-talk, your thoughts and feelings. The inner chaos and rapid emotional fluctuation begins to find balance as you experience less and less inner negativity and a greater sense of calm and trust. This is vibrational ease. And what follows this inner shift towards greater equilibrium is that you begin to notice things about daily life which you may have previously overlooked or written off altogether. You're entering into a contextual field. Life is no longer a series of random events which you feel separate from. Daily events, from the largest to the smallest of occurrences, reveal themselves as being more closely connected to your newfound inner being than when you previously thought life was random and chaotic. Now, as you start to become familiar with this contextual field, the field itself will organize itself in such a way that you become aware of its intelligence. Your state of inner synchronicity reflects back at you through the synchronization of repeating numbers and faster, more effortless manifestations of thoughts into things. Now, what you're experiencing here is vibrational coherence. As your consciousness raises, so does your ability to recognize patterns. At first, these synchronicities may seem small, as though the field is winking at you to see if you'll notice the subtle hints. It's giving you feedback, gently encouraging you to keep on this path of inner peace. Now, this is cause for your celebration. Consciously acknowledge this newfound connection that you formed with the field every time that you become aware of its synchronicity. Give thanks with the energy of gratitude for this two-way communication, as it's clearly saying to you, yes, you're on the right path. When you acknowledge the significance of these signs, you're welcoming more of them. Your recognition of truth invites more truth into your personal field. At this stage of your newfound awareness, you may recall what it was like to think from the perspective of the ego. The ego mind can only view reality through a linear lens, which perceives these events as coincidental or random. There's no room for the magical or miraculous from a linear perspective, which only makes connections through a linear sequencing of events. Synchronistic events are connected by meaning, and this meaning can only be recognized as significant by the individual experiencing the synchronicity. Do you remember a time when you experienced a mind-blowing synchronistic event? It felt as though the universe was speaking directly to you in that moment, right? The details of the event were likely so personal, maybe even connected to your inner thoughts, something only you could be aware of. And when you share the story of what happened with someone else, they may say, oh yeah, that's cool. I've experienced something like that before myself. Even though they understand what you experienced, you know they can't possibly fully grasp the magic of the moment that you felt when it happened. This very personal meaning is what makes synchronicity truly special in your life. After all, if it wasn't deeply personal, it wouldn't have much of an impact in your life in the first place. Signs and synchronicities are nature's way of communicating directly with you. A client of mine recently shared a story of forming a deeper connection with the field through this process of balancing his energy fields. As he learned to create greater degrees of harmony within himself, he all of a sudden began seeing how his thoughts were creating his reality. Repeating numbers, and with increasing frequency, deeper insights and a greater awareness, which began impacting his professional life and relationships. What once could have been brushed off as coincidental was now recognized as gifts from Source, nudging him along his transformative path. As his awareness grew, so did the frequency and variety of these synchronicities. Your only goal is a state of being. It's always a state of being which interacts with the field. And if your state of being is dissonant and corrupted, the field puts the most appropriate situations and circumstances directly in your life experience to show you that your vibration is dissonant and corrupted. When you make it a life practice to simply choose higher emotions, and for their own sake, not because you want to be rewarded with magical signs from the universe, but because life just feels better when you're vibrating correctly, that's when magic begins to happen in your life. Spontaneously, naturally, effortlessly. You are the creator, and it is your state that causes your creation.